them on a winner, yeah, the believer. Give thanks, so when me a bleed. Set speed, I carry on now. Big man in town, them shoulda know say me I keep it crown, yeah. Plant seeds, work feed. Well, enough of them want ready band. When the food gone so long, them run. And them can't be found. Still man fight the fight, me not give in. Day and night, me keep on building. Way of life, me breathe out, breathing. Oh, 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 oh. Tell them I'm a winner, yeah. Not pop down, not Joe, not turn in a sinner. Oh, man, still a believer. Even if we get knocked down, we keep the bounce. Now see me front, you got me from a little and a grow. Come on, a winner, yeah. Still a believer. Oh, oh. And after the sunset, me not fed, cause I'm the defi defend. The world it a turn, so me know that the sun a go rise again one day. I go reach higher heights, even if now it feels like I'm falling. All of me goodness and glory abide by my side, yeah. Knock it, come in, knock we till the work done. Winner, lose a man, a winner, and that's for certain. Never take no program, come me and me own dance. So me go and chad and chad and chad. Tell them I'm a winner, yeah. Not pop down, not Joe, not turn in a sinner. Oh, man, still a believer. Even if we get that gone, we keep the bounce. Now see me front, you got me from a little and I grow. Come on, a winner, yeah. Still a believer. Tell them I'm a winner. Oh, 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 oh. Not pop down, not Joe, not turn in a sinner. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Still a believer. Even if we get that gone, we keep the bounce. Now see me front, you got me from a little and I grow. Come on, a winner.
Hello and welcome to Inspired Earth. This week I have a bunch of stuff about alternative energies that we're going to go through, and we have an update on the PFAS court ruling as well as Venus. So we'll start with Venus here, and they've been going back and forth for a long time, but scientists in a couple decades just recently have gone back and forth many times with Venus having life in the atmosphere or on the ground, and they came out and said again that they have 19 amino acids that were surprisingly persistent for at least a month in the sulfuric acid solution that included some water. So now they're saying that there may be life in Venusian clouds, which it's just interesting how they're constantly flip-flopping on that sort of thing. Speaking of flip-flopping, we are going to just quickly mention that with PFAS, the EPA had banned it. A court judge had banned PFAS, and then Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals on March 21st overturned the previous orders by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency that banned the use of PFAS, the per and polyfluoroalkyl substance, which causes cancer and a bunch of other stuff. And it's all in the food and spreading everywhere, but the EPA said they do not dispute that the underlying decision is a danger to human health, but they did not say that it's a new use, which is wrong, but this isn't over by any stretch, said Kyla Bennett, a former EPA official, now with a nonprofit Public Employees for Environmental Responsibility. So it's strange how all these employees of the FDA and EPA end up quitting the company and joining nonprofits to go and hold the company accountable. It kind of should tell you a lot about the EPA and FDA. So we'll move on with U.S. aiming to crack the code on deploying geothermal energy at scale. And I got a bunch of different numbers with the Biden administration potentially giving out several $100 million, possibly billions, like a couple billion to work on this, but several $100 million for sure. And then this one specifically is $74 million investment alongside the assessment that 10% of electricity could be generated by geothermal by 2050. And this is from The Guardian. A limitless supply of heat exists beneath our feet within the Earth's crust, but harnessing it at scale has proved challenging. Now, a combination of new techniques, government support, and pressing need to secure continuous clean power in an era of climate crisis means that geothermal energy is finally having its moment in the US. Finally. Until recently, geothermal has only been viable where the Earth's inner heat simmers near the surface, which, as a hot spring or geysers or hot water or steam, can easily be drawn to drive turbines and generate electricity. While this has allowed a limited number of places, like Iceland, to use geothermal as a main source of heating and electricity, it's only been a niche presence in the US, providing less than 1% of electricity. But this could change dramatically, offering the promise of endless 24/7 clean energy that can fill the gaps of intermittent solar and wind generation in the electricity grid. Geothermal has been in use for over 100 years, limited to certain geographic locations, but now that is changing, said Amanda Kolker, the Geothermal Laboratory Program Manager. As we penetrate the grid with renewables that are not available all the time, we need to find a base load which is currently taken up by gas. There aren't really many options for zero-emission baseload power, which is why geothermal is entering the picture. Which I feel like there are a lot that we're just like told that. I mean, we're going to go through a whole lot in just this episode, but geothermal capacity could increase 20-fold by 2050. Generating 10% of the U.S. electricity, according to a recent roadmap released by U.S. Department of Energy. Joe Biden's administration has also funded new projects aimed at pushing forward the next generation of geothermal that aim to make the energy source available anywhere on America's landmass, not just easy-to-reach springs. The U.S. can lead energy future with continued innovation on the next generation technologies. From harnessing the power of the sun to the heat beneath our feet, the cracking of the code to deploy them at scale, said Jennifer Granholm, the U.S. Energy Secretary, who added that she saw enormous potential in geothermal. Expanding the geothermal footprint to the entire U.S. will take time, as well as plenty of money. The Department of Energy estimates as much as $250 billion will be needed for projects to become widespread across the country, providing major sources of clean power. This February, Biden administration announced $74 million for up to 7 pilot test projects to develop enhanced geothermal systems that the government said had a potential for powering 65 million American homes. Ironically, enhanced geothermal uses similar fracking techniques currently used to extract oil and gas, which must be phased out if the world is to avoid climate disaster. The geothermal version of fracking, fluid is injected deep underground, causing fractures to form up, with the liquid becoming hot as it circulates. The hot water is then pumped into the surface where it can generate electricity for the grid. I have some concerns about that, but as a transitional energy to like get us out of gas into something else, like I feel like we kind of don't have a choice. But as far as fracking like technologies, we should try to avoid that as much as possible. Fracking is like not good. Anybody who has been around it will tell you that, who's honest about it. But what a lot of people don't realize is that fracking causes these microfractures, which it's describing right here, inherently, like with the whole process, that the fractures spread out, and that can cause earthquakes to become more powerful and be able to travel further because they're not dampened. The energy is not absorbed as quickly because of the fractures, so earthquakes can travel further and be more powerful after these microfractures are in the continent. And we don't have a way to fix microfractures in the continent, so we're kind of screwing with something we can't fix with that. But we need, I mean, like I said, we kind of don't have a choice with as far as the gas and the climate and stuff, so we should just be really careful with it and use it in areas that we don't have to frack as heavily to get it. Like it says in the East Coast that it might be difficult, but in New Mexico it's really easy. So we should probably focus on the areas that it's very easy to do. But this and other technologies that allow deeper and horizontal drilling, in some cases down up to 8 miles, allow geothermal energy to be drawn from hot rocks found anywhere underground. Rather than select spots that have hot water near the surface, this vastly expands the potential of the technology. I don't know if we could like possibly cool down the center of the Earth by taking power from it, but it's something to consider that heat has to come from somewhere, and that we would be cooling the center of the Earth. I mean, that happens anyways, but we would be speeding it up. But once again, this is like, as far as a temporary energy source to like get us through this transitional period, it seems like it'd be a really good idea. And dozens of companies are looking to push ahead the geothermal plans. In New Mexico, a Canadian firm successfully drilled a 3-mile hole to prove it could access heat in deep granite rock. At play for these companies is an inexhaustible energy supply. Notice they said for these companies, not for the people, not for the earth. It says these companies. So it's crazy that it's just straight up blunt like that. At play for these companies is an inexhaustible energy supply. Just one type of next generation geothermal called super rock energy, where deep drilling reaches temperatures 400 Celsius or hotter, is abundant enough to theoretically fulfill the world's power requirements. In fact, just 1% of the world's super rock potential could provide 63 terawatts of clean firm power, which would meet global electricity demand nearly 8 times over. So, yeah, probably cooling the planet isn't that big of a worry. But, I mean, long term, it would be interesting to look at that. But just 1% of the world's super rock potential could make 8 times the world's global electric demand. The fact that we haven't been doing stuff like this is ridiculous. While this modeling is preliminary, our findings suggest an enormous opportunity to unlock vast amounts of clean energy beneath our feet, said Tara Rogers, the director for Superhot Rock Energy at Clean Air Task Force. So we'll quickly move on to Morocco here with Yahoo Technology. Morocco will dedicate about 2.5 million acres of land to new cutting-edge energy projects. And it's basically like a giant solar farm, but there's a catch to it, where it's not just a solar farm. Morocco is set to embrace green energy in a big way, allocating 2.5 million acres to a land project to deliver clean power. Green energy produced when electrolysis converts water into hydrogen and oxygen has the potential to power trucks, ships, or planes. The only byproduct is water, which is much better than planet-warming gases like carbon dioxide and methane produced by burning dirty energy. It could revolutionize the energy sector, but the process is energy intensive, which makes gains minimal when compared to the power used to create it. But Morocco presents a huge opportunity to develop green hydrogen. Abundant sunlight flows for substantial energy yields from solar power, and clean energy can be used to create green hydrogen that can be utilized in some of the world's most polluting machines. So they can use the solar to make the hydrogen gas, which then can run the machines that would normally be like the worst of the worst machines. And then it says in North Africa, they have a power station that covers 7,400 acres and produces 580 megawatts, according to CNN. And the first phase of green hydrogen production will consist of 740,000 acres. That's a lot. The Moroccan government will offer incentives for investors who want to get involved in generating the fuel for both domestic and export use. So there's a lot going on. And it says, to achieve a goal of having renewables account for 52% of all installed capacity by 2030, further ambitious plans are required, and green energy could help accelerate efforts to meet that target. We're going to be hearing a lot about green energy coming soon. I have been studying that, and it's very, very intriguing. Here we have from Interesting Engineering, scientists reveal all-day cooling technology that also generates clean electricity. So this keeps stuff cool while also generating electricity. The dual cooling and power strategy can work around the clock and deliver savings of 30% of electricity compared to only using solar cells. Researchers at Penn State University in the US have developed a dual harvester that generates clean energy and directs heat away from the earth. The harvester consists of a solar cell and uses radiative cooling to save more than 30% of electricity compared to standard solar cells. What is radiative cooling? Radiative cooling is the process through which objects on Earth shed their thermal energy into outer space without warming their surroundings. Heat is emitted in the form of infrared light, which escapes directly from the Earth's atmosphere. And anytime you hear about light or heat escaping, Tesla's ears would be ringing, Nikola Tesla, and your ears should be ringing too. That anytime we have heat or sparks or escaping light or any of that, that is an energy that we can capture and harness and use should we want to. In this case, it seems like they're trying to reflect the heat back out because they can't figure out a way to absorb it, and we're trying to reduce the planet heating. So, but it's also generating electricity while reflecting the heat and cooling stuff. So it's doing what we want. It's all about strategy and different philosophies of the technology and stuff. The team leveraged this principle to develop a dual cooling and power strategy, generating clean energy through a solar cell while simultaneously getting rid of heat. In radiative cooling, the infrared light radiates from a piece of transparent, low-iron glass, explained Lin Zhao Zhu, assistant professor of mechanical engineering and leader of the research team. The light bounces off of the glass, passes through the atmosphere without warming the surrounding air, and lands in outer space, which we could call the cold universe. While this does not directly help generate energy, cooling generated using this approach can be used in place of air conditioners and refrigerators and reduce the consumption of electricity that would have otherwise been used to do this work. So solar cells have to be cooled and stuff, so I guess that's the point, is it's cooling the solar cell. So it doesn't have to use electricity to cool it. How does dual energy harvesting work? Zhu was part of the team that invented the daytime radiative cooling a decade ago. This technique is currently being explored as a zero-carbon cooling method. In their recent work, Zhu's team designed a new ultra-thin, transparent radiative cooler that transmits most of the light through it. This way, a solar cell placed below the radiative cooling material can continue to generate electricity while the radiative cooler does its thing. At night and during the day, the radiative cooler works as a 24/7 natural air conditioner, highlighted Pramit Ghosh, a doctoral student in mechanical engineering at Penn State. Even on a hot day, the radiative cooler is cold to the touch. Tests carried out by the researchers showed that the cooler could drop ambient air temperature by as much as 5 degrees Celsius during the day. The cooling produced in this manner could be pumped into a fan to keep a building cool around the clock, acting as a natural air conditioner. That's crazy. Literally just today, somebody got arrested for smuggling refrigerants through a border. Here, let me see if I can just Google it right here. Man becomes the first person to be charged with illegal smuggling of refrigerant. It will not be the last. On March 4th, 2024, California man Michael Hart became the first person to be arrested and charged with smuggling greenhouse gases across the border from Mexico into the United States. So I guess it was last month is whenever it happened. So yeah, people are already doing that. The key advantage of such a system is that dual energy harvesters occupy the same space and can continue the work in tandem irrespective of the time of day. The setup is also minimal and can be placed on the rooftop or the ground, much like solar cells are installed. Based on these experimental results, Using the two harvesters together has the potential to significantly outperform a bare solar cell, which is a key renewable energy technology. So this is even better than regular solar cells. And here we have from cooldown.com, scientists develop method to transform plastic waste into a powerful climate solution. It's a game changer. A new way to utilize waste plastics, which are a serious social problem. Scientists have developed a method that will allow plastic waste to be used in chemical reactions that make toxic compounds safer. The process involves smashing plastic bags with a metal ball. Plastic bags, like the kind you see in the grocery store, have long been detrimental to human, animal, and environmental health because of the choking hazards and the fact they take hundreds of years to break down. That's crazy. It says that plastic bags are thrown into a ball mill, which rapidly mixes solids using a steel ball. Their chemical bonds break apart, creating radicals, which are agents that set off chemical reactions that lead to dehalogenation, according to Interesting Engineering. These radicals can strip halogens out of toxic substances, thus making them safer for everyone and everything that it comes into contact with. Interesting Engineering says the breakthrough is a game changer for handling toxic compounds in various industries. Since humans produce a scary amount of plastic waste, about 267 million tons per year, according to some estimates, alternative uses of plastic are essential in curbing pollution to keep plastic waste out of our environment as much as possible. Scientists have developed ways to convert plastic waste into valuable chemicals, asphalt, and energy. I don't know about turning plastic into roads. If they say that it's safe, then I'm down for it. But I'm concerned about microplastics when we start talking about turning plastic into roads. But as far as turning it into energy and chemicals and all of that, that's easy peasy stuff that should be done already. I believe that this approach will lead to not only the development of safe and highly efficient radical-based reactions, but also to a new way to utilize waste plastics, which are a serious social problem. So we should be finding ways to turn our waste into actual useful stuff, because it's possible. People just don't think of that sort of stuff, but it's definitely possible. Professor Hajime Ito has said that processes should be cheap and also safe. Our new approach, using stable, cheap, and abundant plastic materials as initiators for radical chain reactions, hold the significant potential to foster the development of an industrial, attractive, safe, and highly efficient chemical process. So it should be cheap as well, because we're like talking about waste stuff. So like it's obviously going to be cheap. Here we have from Eco News. We have technology that it's been talked about for so long. So here we go with somebody that's actually trying it. Like a lot of this stuff has been talked about for so many decades that it's nice to finally see all of these technologies finally coming to fruition, rather than just them beating around the bush. I mean, they're still beating around the bush, but it's so much is coming out that it's not even funny anymore. That we have so many technologies that we can supply abundance to our people. But here we have one that will potentially, in the future, maybe even slow down hurricanes. But hurricanes will produce infinite energy, the invention that absorbs monsters like Katrina. I don't know about absorbing Katrina, because that we'll talk about the speed later with the wind, but this device could not absorb Katrina. I don't know why the author even wrote that. Maybe in, the future we will get something that's efficient. But from devastating impacts to infinite energy, what could we do with hurricanes? Hurricanes are a phenomenon of growing concern in the United States, with cities like New Orleans in danger of disappearing. Can you imagine the extreme winds or storm surges that could be used to produce energy? The powerful winds of hurricanes hold enormous potential as energy source. If only we could capture the force. Traditional wind turbines are not designed to withstand hurricane-force winds, shutting down to avoid damage in extreme weather. But new floating wind turbine designs that can operate in the toughest conditions may finally allow us to harness the incredible power of hurricanes. Floating wind turbines placed offshore in hurricane-prone areas could utilize the strong, consistent winds of hurricanes to generate abundant clean energy. Winds in a hurricane can blow over 157 miles per hour, containing exponentially more energy than normal winds. But the challenge has always been creating turbines and platforms tough enough to stay afloat and operate in the midst of a monstrous cyclone. That's now changing with innovative turbine and platform designs built to survive ultra-harsh open ocean environments. These new floating turbines may make it possible to extract green energy from hurricanes instead of just suffering their devastating impacts. Traditional wind turbines can't withstand wind in hurricanes. We have a problem. Traditional wind turbines are not designed to operate in hurricane-force winds, which can exceed over 120 miles per hour. Onshore turbines are especially vulnerable as the intense winds can damage the blades, topple towers, and send debris flying. This forces turbine operators to manually shut down the turbines during a hurricane. Offshore turbines mounted on fixed foundation also face risks from major storms. Although they are located in open waters with steady wind, the platforms and towers are not built to withstand hurricane conditions. Operators must shut these turbines down as well in advance of approaching hurricanes. Shutting down turbines is a safety precaution, but it results in loss of energy production when winds are their strongest and have the most potential. It highlights why traditional turbine designs cannot make use of the immense wind power potential from hurricanes and tropical storms. The Alteris Buoyant Airborne Turbine, BAT, B-A-T, is an innovative floating wind turbine designed by Massachusetts-based company Altereros Energies. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Altereros, I think. This unique design allows the BAT to deploy at high altitudes, harnessing stronger and more consistent winds compared to traditional ground-based or sea-based turbines. The BAT consists of inflated helium shell that lifts the turbine to a generator over 1,000 feet into the air. Strong tethers keep the BAT steady and feed electricity to the ground. The lightweight but durable carbon fiber frame allows the BAT to withstand winds up to 126 miles per hour. Unlike stationary turbines, the BAT can align itself with optimal wind speed direction and velocity since it's not fixed to the ground. It ascends higher to capture faster winds during the day than descends at night when the wind speed's lower. The flexibility results in up to 2.5 times the energy output compared to conventional turbines. The BAT's minimal ground footprint and mobility make it ideal for remote locations that track transmission infrastructure. It can also be rapidly deployed for on-demand power generation. Altereros, that's such a hard, weird spelling, envision the BAT being used for disaster relief, military bases, offshore oil rigs, and remote villages that need reliable electricity. It is clear that producing energy with hurricanes is a science fiction-like invention, but now we have managed to make it possible. The list is long. The Katrina, Sandy, Patricia have caused havoc in our country, many of them irreparable. It's weird how those are all like female names. They say that like hurricanes that are given female names, people don't take them as seriously because they don't sound as threatening, so more people get hurt. So it's kind of interesting that they just named 3 female hurricane names. Perhaps we should have names that are not gendered. I don't know, that's weird, but there's obviously a psychological impact based on the name of like the reaction, and it makes people less safe. So do with that what you will. But however, we are now closer to putting them at service of our electricity grid. So we're almost there. And this is just another like example of constantly increasing our technologies. Here we have something pretty new. We don't have a previous version of this really. We have researchers inch closer to developing rechargeable cement batteries, and they could change the way we power the world. We are convinced this concept makes for a great contribution to allowing future building materials to have additional functions such as renewable energy sources. And this concept could change the way we power our homes and buildings, as well as to help offset the widely reported estimate of 8% of global air production that comes from the cement production. That could mean cleaner air and healthier minds and bodies, as pollution has been linked to increased dementia and stroke risk. We envision that this future technology could allow for whole sections of multi-story buildings made up of functional concrete. To start, scientists add small amounts of carbon fibers to the recipe for their cement. This added conductivity and strength to the mix. A metal-coated carbon fiber mesh was also included, using iron for an anode and nickel for a cathode. And the components on the list, like the one needed for standard battery chemistry, in fact, that there's a graphic shared by Popular Mechanics showing a slice of perspective concrete detailing the two electrodes and electrolyte internal layer. It looks sort of like a sandwich, with the conductive cement as the slices of bread. Iron and nickel coated mesh runs through it, serving as electrodes. The middle, or peanut butter and jelly, to continue the sandwich analogy, is the electrolyte. The concrete made with this recipe produces material that can be recharged, a big win. While the amount of energy in the concrete can store in relation to its mass isn't as much as the traditional batteries. It's up to 10 times better than other concrete battery concepts, however. Fortunately, large buildings offer plenty of mass, helping to lower energy density. The experts envision that concrete power source energizing LEDs, internet connection, and other basic office functions. It could also be coupled with solar cell panels, for example, to provide electricity and become the energy source for monitoring systems and highways or bridges, where sensors operated by a concrete battery could detect cracking or erosion. Or imagine a dam or a bridge or roads, like they said. I mean, you could even warn of like animals on the road and stuff. If the roads had electricity, they would be like biosensitive to stuff walking on it or other electricity. So yeah, the road could like light up and tell you that there's a threat ahead. I think in like Australia they had done something similar. Maybe in Asia too. But it says that Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, are using cement, water, and a substance called carbon black to essentially turn home foundations into batteries. So there's other people that are working this too, and yeah, we just have so many technologies. I mean, we just talked about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 alternative power technologies. And they're all different, every single one of them. And this is just scratching the surface, literally, just scratching the surface. Some of these technologies could be split into multiple uses, too. It kind of talked about that to where it exponentiates the power saving. And we need stuff like that. We need to create feedback loops of sustainability, because there's a bunch of feedback loops of unsustainability. So that's what we're doing, is making our own patterns, making our own sustainable future. And thank you for everybody listening. I will try to put out some more stuff. I have thought about doing an EVP on April 8th during the eclipse to try to contact the sun. I mean, why not, right? So I've been thinking about that. If you have any suggestions or any rescue stories, I was looking for rescue stories. They are so difficult to find. So if you speak any other languages, be sure to send them to me. And on that note, hello to everybody listening to other nations. I think we have Germany, Australia, United Kingdom, Canada, all of those countries listening. So thank you to all of you guys. If y'all have crazy stories, please send them to me at my email, inspiredearthpodcast@gmail.com. And then shout out to all the Patreon subscribers, specifically Bonnie, that has been talking to me about Earth and the Gaia hypothesis and the science behind that, and talking about Carl Sagan. And I really appreciate all the feedback, Bonnie. You're awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you to all the listeners. Be safe out there and be careful.